Thank you for joining me. All right. Hi. Yeah, tell me in the chat where you're joining us from. So we're just getting settled in here. Abigail, can you make me the host or something? Because I'm just seeing myself in a small view and I'm
You
not
are
seeing
host.
myself on the, do you know what I'm
You're
saying?
host.
Welcome everyone. Come on in. Tell me where you're from. I would love to hear. Let's go to the chat. I want to see who is here with us today. We've got Glow-a-Tree from New York, Ali from UK, Anna from Warsaw, Katrine from Denmark. Wow, fantastic. Georgia's here, Olga from Cornwall, Shanna from Colorado. Fantastic. All right. So come on in, everyone. We're going to get started. We're just getting nice and settled. Abigail, I have myself on speaker view, but you are showing as the speaker. So I'm not sure how to do that. Speaker, you are showing as a speaker. All right. So I'm not sure how to fix this. Everybody, can you see me in the big picture here on Zoom, or do you see me as a small picture? We see you big. Okay, great. You can see me big. Perfect. Let me do this. Okay, you got me on big picture. Okay, here we go. So without further ado, for some reason, I'm not seeing myself that way. I'm seeing, let me just play with it for a second because I want to see. There I am. Okay. Thank you, Abigail, for your support. And then once again, welcome everyone. Thanks for helping me get settled. So let's do this. Let's get started. Welcome, welcome. Today is session 2 of this free masterclass series on work, money, and the mother wound. And we had session 1 last week, which was all about how the mother wound can manifest in our careers and how we can transform that into empowerment, success, and abundance. And that was a fantastic first webinar. Today, I'm so excited to talk about in session 2, my favorite topic, which is why it's crucial for us to heal the mother wound. And I'm going to talk about not just our career, like we talked about last session, but the other areas in our lives that the mother wound can show up. I'm going to share so much. So let's get into our introduction. So as you know, we're gonna have time for Q&A at the end. So while I'm talking, if you have questions that come to mind, pop them into the Q&A box, because that's where I'm going to read the questions from later on. So there's a chat box and a Q&A. And so pop your questions in there. And I'm going to go to the chat as well throughout my talk just to connect with you and hear how things are landing. So be sure to not miss the Q&A tab. I can only get to so many questions, so I won't be able to get to everybody's question because we'll have limited time, of course, but please come to the private Facebook group after this session because I'm in there. I've been in there over the weekend and everything, answering questions, reading your comments. So if you really want to interact with me and get more questions answered, come to the private Facebook group. If you're on Facebook, that's a great way that we can continue the conversation. So, I think closed captioning is on for those of you who are hard of hearing. You'll be able to follow along that way. I want to thank my powerful assistant, Abigail, who's here with us, and she's going to be in the chat with you, giving you information, helping you as we go along. So, as many of you know, my name is Bethany Webster. I'm a writer, a speaker, a transformational coach, and I'm the author of the book called Discovering the Inner Mother, a guide to healing the mother wound and claiming your personal power. So my mission in life is to help women to heal the mother wound and step into their full power and potential. I've been doing this work since 2013, so it's now 10 years now, and it's been amazing to see this work spread and grow, this movement spread around the world now. The book is translated into 12 languages, so it's been very powerful, and I want to thank all of you who are here with me today, those of you who are new to my work, as well as those of you who have been with me for a long time. It's awesome to welcome you back. So my intention with this free masterclass series is really to share with you, my work on healing the mother wound, give you a taste on the work that I do, and to share my latest thoughts about, work, money, and the mother wound, and how it can be showing up for us right now as women living, in 2023, which is a really intense time to be a human being. There's so much going on. So my goal for this series is really for all of you to have some kind of breakthrough during our time together, some kind of big epiphany, aha, insight. And that's my gift to you. And as you know, there's a workbook, a really potent workbook that I had a ton of fun putting together. But it's a free workbook that comes with this series, and it's very robust. It has a lot of exercises, mindsets, things that you can put to use right away. So if you haven't downloaded that yet, I really encourage you to do that. There's a lot of journaling exercises in there that you can work with as well. So as you know, in this free series, you get the workbook, 3 webinars with me. Tomorrow we have another one. Tomorrow's Wednesday, the 11th, also at 1 p.m. Eastern. And in that webinar, we're going to go over Q&A all about the course, my online course on healing the mother wound, which as part of my mission to make this healing journey as, easier, lighter, gentler for you, and really set you up for success. Part of that commitment for me is to give you a discount on my online course on healing the mother wound, which has first launched in 2014, and it's been around and it's been upgraded and revamped many times. And I'm really proud of it, but it's really designed to give you the full roadmap of how to heal the mother wound. And so I offer that twice per year, fall and spring, at $250 off. So that makes it easier for you to join if this has been something that you've been wanting to do, if you've been feeling like, I want to go deeper. I know some of you, the free masterclass will be enough, but I know for some of you, you're going to want to go deeper. And so I really feel that that discount helps you take that extra step and support you in your desire and commitment to grow, to heal, and evolve. And so I'm going to talk more about that later, but I want to just let you know that the deadline is this Friday at midnight Eastern. That's when the price will go back to its regular price of $997. So you'll be able to get it for $250 off until Friday at midnight. And there's a low payment plan available as well. So I just want to let you know about that. And by the way, all these calls are recorded. So you'll get an email with this recording. It'll also be put in the private Facebook group as well. Okay, so let's get started. Those were all my housekeeping items. Thank you so much for your patience. I'm really eager to get started with our content for today. So as I mentioned, our topic today is why it's crucial for women to heal the mother wound. And the reason why this topic is so important is because our mothers were really our foundation for who we are today. I mean, this is not to blame our mothers or make them wrong or to, put them down. It's really to look at radical responsibility for how we became the way we are, why we have certain challenges that we have, and how we can do the work to transform those to really individuate and to become our true selves and bring our real gifts out into the world. So when we're little girls, our mother's beliefs become our beliefs. Her patterns become our patterns. We internalize, for better or worse, whatever her choices, her beliefs, her feelings about all the important things, how our mom felt about her body, how she felt about money, how she felt about relationships, sexuality. These beliefs are kind of like in the atmosphere. And so as little children, it's just how we're built. We absorb like sponges, these beliefs. And the problem is that we also have our mother's own traumas, her unhealed traumas that she might have brought into the dynamic with us, as well as the wider cultural atmosphere that says that women are less than. So growing up as women in a patriarchal culture, we also get those messages that it's not good to be a woman, or women are less than, or women are not smart enough. Women are inferior in some way, right? So we all internalize a bunch of these things in our household, and especially in the relationship with our mother, because we needed our mother's approval in order to survive. We needed her to be loving towards us. And if she wasn't, for whatever reason, either chronically or just once in a while, the way a child internalizes that is there must be something wrong with me. I must be bad. Why else wouldn't my mom, who's supposed to love me more than anyone, withdraw from me or yell at me or abuse me or tell me I'm not good enough? So this is really a coping mechanism that children have, that we just believe we're bad and we're shameful. It might not be conscious. It's just oftentimes an unconscious assumption and conclusion that we come to. So shame is really a coping mechanism. It's not really the truth. And that's why, this work is so important, because we can help the inner child, the little girl inside of us who might still believe in her own shame. We can help her really understand the truth, which is that those beliefs really were a response to what we went through as little girls. The truth is that you have always been good, lovable, whole, exactly as you are. So in adulthood, we can let go of those false conclusions and start to really see the truth of our magnificence, our goodness, and then feel that within us as something indestructible, something that no one can take from us. And then we can start to express that in the world in powerful ways. So the challenging part is that the mother wound is really a blueprint of self. It impacts how we see ourselves, how we see the world, how we see other people. It has a very big impact. But the good news is that, and this is one of the reasons why I love this work so much, is because when we do this deep inner work, we start to see transformation in every area. So it's not like we just work on it just shows up in our career only. When we do the mother wound work, it shows up in our romantic relationships, the way we feel about our bodies, our friendships. Everything improves because we're dealing with that kind of linchpin, which is our sense of self, our blueprint of self. So that's what inspires me the most, is witnessing women do this deeper work on healing the mother wound and their lives transform everywhere. So you might not even be working on your parenting, for example, but your relationship with your kids might just automatically start to get better because you're doing this deep inner work. So I've been doing this for 10 years, and that's why this is what keeps me going, is seeing, this kind of transformation happen. So the mother wound exists on many different levels. There's the personal level that we've been talking about. And the mother wound is, if I had to define it, it's an internalized set of beliefs and patterns that cause us to unconsciously limit or sabotage ourselves as a means to secure love, safety, and belonging. Now, I know that's kind of a long definition, but to make it even more concise, the mother wound is the ways that we limit and sabotage ourselves to get love, right? So it's really about how we've learned to make ourselves small, silent, self-sacrificing, in the belief that that will get us love and safety and approval from other people. And unfortunately, we live in a culture that actually reinforces that, that the good women are the ones that don't speak up and don't rock the boat and don't, become difficult, right? So as we heal the mother wound, it really unleashes our true sense of self. And what I've seen through the years is, when women heal the mother wound, they speak their truth. They automatically become more of a leader in their community and in their families and in their world. They start speaking their truth more without fear and without guilt. They start prioritizing their own needs and they actually start to listen to their limits and, respecting their body and what they will and won't do. They start raising their standards for who comes into their life, who gets access to them. Women start to set really strong boundaries and without guilt and really enforce them. Women start to feel more free with their own bodies and start to feel more at home in their body. They start to attract higher quality relationships that really honor who they are. They start to read red flags early and act upon them. So rather than tolerating poor treatment and hoping it gets better, they just see the red flag and they act. And also, one thing they do is, as women heal the mother wound, they stop taking other people's behavior personally. One of the things that can happen a lot, especially if you are someone who has a tumultuous relationship with your mom that's stressful, is we can often think, well, I wanted my mom to love me. I want to have that relationship with her that really works for both of us. And we can start to try everything, explain everything to her, give her self-help podcasts or books to read. We can want her to become the mom that we want her to be. And this has a powerful impact on how our other relationships are with our bosses, our friends, our partners, our kids. And through the process of healing the mother wound, we let go, we grieve and let go of needing other people to be a certain way in order for us to be happy. Does that make sense? I would say that's one of the most powerful transformations that happen as we heal the mother wound. We are no longer waiting and hoping for other people to change in order for us to be happy. George is saying, yes, Sandra. Okay, great. I'm glad that's resonating with you because it's one of the most liberating things that can happen. So I want to get back to my notes. I'm going on a little bit of a riff here, but I hope all that's landing for you that, this work is, I think, in my opinion, the most important work that we can do. And I'm going to share a bit about my personal story as well later on. So you're in the right place today if you have a relationship with your mom that's been stressful, full of tension, that over the years, nothing seems to work. You're in the right place today if you've longed for your mom's approval and it's always felt out of reach. Even if you have a relatively peaceful relationship with your mom, but you're still dealing with a lot of those cultural messages that say you're not good enough as a woman, or there's unfinished business around that. You're in the right place if you sense that you're continuing to feel that being small is the safer option, right? Not rocking the boat, not speaking your truth, avoiding conflict, people pleasing. We've been taught as women that that's the route to safety and being approved of. So if you find yourself keeping yourself small, wanting to do something different, but feeling paralyzed to do that, this is definitely work you want to check out. You're in the right place today. Another big one is if you've been working towards your goals, whether it's career goals or relationship goals, and nothing seems to quite be working. You find yourself repeatedly coming back to feeling shame, doubt, guilt, feeling stuck. A lot of these things have to boil down to the mother wound and the messages that we receive from our moms that make it feel safer to be small. See, the inner child in us is really the gatekeeper of our upper limits. Even if in our adult self, we know, I got this, I can do this, whatever it is, the inner child might say, no way, that's not safe, because we learned from mom. And remember, our mothers are a primary attachment bond. So whatever mom taught us, even though we might outwardly reject it or disagree with it, the little girl in us might still very deeply be believing that that is how we stay safe, is compliance with what we learned from mom. So that's why you might feel a disconnect sometimes, like, I'm a really smart woman, I've done X, Y, Z, but I feel paralyzed around this certain area, or I keep wanting to create this goal and make it happen, but I feel like I collapse at a certain level. Those are symptoms of the inner child hitting the brakes really hard, because on some level, that goal or that dream to the inner child feels unsafe. And so the inner child's primary goal is safety. So the way that we come out of this is really the practice of inner mothering. We mother that little girl inside of us who's looking outside for a mom. We become that mother to her that she needed. And we teach her that safety is not in compliance with what mom taught us, but really safety is in our bodies, within ourselves. And we, as the adult self, become that loving inner mother. And when that inner child really gets that, feels that trust, then you kind of step out of that invisible fence of the mother wound and more into possibilities, right? You become more at choice in your life and less at the whim of some of these automatic default patterns that are really old and come from childhood, come from our families. They might have been passed down through our mother's line for generations, right? So it's like, how do we become safe rather than feeling that smallness and silence and attenuating ourselves as safety? We can help the inner child feel that being sovereign is safe. Having high standards is safe, that we can have safety in every moment, really, and We can also have that with our power, with our voice, with our authentic truth. So we start to, over time, help the inner child come out of the past and into the safety of the moment. And we become more at choice about, what would be the most empowering thing for me to do right now? What would be the most empowering choice? And then feel the freedom to act upon that without the old guilt and shame holding you back. So let me know if this makes sense. Everybody, I'm kind of explaining now the concept around the inner child is really the one that needs our help as we heal the mother wound. Okay, so I've just talked about the mother wound, and I want to now give you some examples of how the mother wound might show up in your life. So I'm going to give you a little list and you can feel into whether this feels true for you or not. But there's many ways the mother wound can show up. It can show up as competition, feeling not good enough. I kind of mentioned that already. Feeling competitive or jealous with other women. It can show up as depression, any kind of addictions, body image issues with food. I struggled with that for many years myself. The mother wound can also show up, in terms of just not feeling like we can have what we want, this perpetual feeling like what you want is out of reach. It can show up with having the same partners, like partners that are not really honoring you. So you kind of recycle the same patterns in your life with different people. That's another sign of the mother wound, where we become attached to people that are very similar to our mothers, which could be emotionally unavailable, shaming partners, or people who are don't respect our boundaries or what have you. So the mother wound is really something that shows up in a lot of different areas of our lives. I just want to find here. Yeah, so there's another one that's the guilt. Guilt is a really big one. And I like to say that, guilt is really an artifact of that thing that we were taught, that we shouldn't be too big, we shouldn't be too happy, we shouldn't be too smart, we shouldn't be too big, too whatever, XYZ. And guilt is really the artifact of control, right? We learned that a good woman is one who keeps herself small and controlled. And we have to be willing to feel the guilt and do it anyway, right? In order to really reclaim our true selves underneath all of this, we kind of have to anoint the parts of ourselves that society and our families told us was unacceptable and unlovable. So we have to love those places in us that were rejected or shamed. And that's part of the process as well. So not being your full self because you don't want to threaten other people, having a high tolerance for poor treatment from others. So letting people talk at you without interrupting them, emotional caretaking, over functioning for other people, self-sabotage. You get really close to something you want and then you feel guilty or contract and collapse at the last moment. Being too rigid or dominating, burnout, perfectionism. And I mentioned that a lot of conditions like eating disorders can also be part of it as well. So as you can see, this can touch many different areas of our lives. And it's important to know that, because the more we can make this conscious, the more we can do something about it, right? So I want to talk now about, the predicament that we're in as women right now. It's really like the very beliefs that were taught to us through our mothers, either explicitly or implicitly. Some of our mothers taught us these beliefs just in a, innocent, trying to keep us safe, like, don't be too big. People won't like you if you're too intense, or, things like that. But on the other side of the spectrum, some of us experienced actual abuse and trauma with our mothers. And some of our mothers enacted that trauma out on us with, she hadn't done any work on herself. She hadn't got any support. And so as daughters, we might've been, the projection screen for a lot of her pain and unhealed trauma as well. So the predicament really comes down to wherever we fall on the spectrum of the mother wound, mild to more severe, wherever we fall, the predicament comes down to the same thing, which basically is, how can we be the strong, empowered, sovereign women that we're being called to be right now at this time in history, when the beliefs that, we were taught from our mothers and grandmothers really are diametrically opposed to that, right? Our culture and our families have taught us that to be powerful, sovereign, unapologetically self-worthy, that would lead to rejection, that would lead to loss and being exiled or not approved of. Many of us can feel that tension of, I know what my potential is, I know what I'm capable of, and I long for that. But I've been taught from family and culture that if I really step into that I could be left alone, I could be abandoned, I could be rejected, I could be told I'm too much, full of myself, that I need to be taken down a peg, or, things like that. So that's really kind of the predicament that I see us in. And the thing is, and this is something I really want to drive home today in this webinar, is that these kind of beliefs, these default that we have from patriarchy and from our family, they stay in place until we do something about them. So there's a real high cost to not looking at the mother wound, to not healing it. The cost is that, generations of women and their gifts and their brilliance become lost, to all of us. So we can live perpetually in this place of not wanting to rock the boat, a persistent sense like there's something wrong with me, having weak boundaries and an unclear sense of who you are and where other people are, not feeling worthy or capable of doing what you really want to do with your life, not feeling safe to speak up, speak your truth, or arranging yourself around not rocking the boat. Many women, and this is the tragedy of the mother wound, is that many women go through their lives doing that, rearranging the furniture without actually having the lives that they want, right? Or unconsciously waiting for our mother's permission and approval before stepping into what we want. I spent many years in that place where I was waiting, longing for my mom. This was very unconscious for a long time, but waiting for her to see me and say, you got this, you can do this. And then I realized she was never going to give me that approval or encouragement or permission. I had to claim it. So a lot of this stuff is unconscious. So making it conscious is really how we break the cycle, because that's what healing the mother wound is all about. It's like, how can we take all this stuff that we've received or inherited from our families, and how can we break the cycle so that we can make more things possible, that we don't just perpetuate the suffering? I was talking to somebody, a coaching client recently, and she put it so perfectly. She was saying that her mom had gone through a lot of trauma in her life with her mom and never did any work on it, never had any real awareness of why there was so much pain there. But she was perpetuating the same stuff with my client, her daughter. And it really made clear, like, if we don't become conscious of what we went through as little girls, what we needed from our mothers but didn't get, that's what I call the mother gap. And all that goes into that. If we don't look at that, if we don't see the magnitude of what we went through, and it's often worse than we thought, because when we're growing up, we don't have anything to compare it to. We think everything's fine. I thought I had a perfect family. I thought my mother was my best friend when I first started therapy. And then as I started doing the work over many, many years, I started to become horrified that that wasn't healthy. That was actually extremely abusive and traumatic. We have to be willing to slowly start to see the reality of what we went through in order to not perpetuate it, in order to give ourselves the love that we deserve, in order to break the cycle, in order to become conscious in other ways of things that are happening right now on the planet, to become desensitized to the traumas that we went through. We have to be able to feel in order to heal. And I know that's kind of a cliche, but it's really true. So, a lot of the women before us, our mothers, our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers, our aunts, they, for whatever reason, didn't have the tools, the awareness, the fortitude, the courage to do this kind of work. And now there's more tools available, right? This is more becoming more the norm for people to go to therapy, to do personal healing work. So it's really us. I feel like this generation, we have a chance that so many of our former generations did not have or did not take up the courage to do. So I think it's a real privilege and an important opportunity for us to do the work of healing the mother wound, to break the cycles of pain in our families, and to, we're the ones that we've been waiting for. That's another cliche, but it's really true. Like, I don't have my own children, but I know that as I do this work, I'm a different person and how I show up in my communities with my friends. Just generally, the consciousness that I carry around is so much different. It's so much more open than anything I came from my own childhood, from my own family. So this is brave work. This is important. It's necessary. Even the wars that we see that are happening, like there's a new war that's going on now. A lot of those are come down to, on some level, inherited beliefs, inherited beliefs that are not sustainable, or they're obsolete now. And we're seeing this more and more, that the work that we have to do is about how can we give ourselves the love and support that we need? Because when we do that, there's an inherent abundance in that. And that makes that either or, power over stuff, not even attractive. It makes it more and more clearly unhealthy and unnecessary, right? So I see that the work we do, even in our private, unglamorous moments, it makes a difference. This stuff makes a huge difference. There's ripple effects that go out, because all of us are connected in our consciousness. So when one of us faces our pain with support and makes a change, has an insight, new breakthrough, it helps all of us. I really believe that. And so I want to inspire you today to make a commitment to your healing, that you're worth it. Your healing is worth it for you, not just for the world, because I know a lot of us women have that pressure, like we can't just heal for ourselves. We have to do it for our kids and our family. No, no, no. Primarily, this work is for you, right? Your one precious life, never to be repeated, right? And, what you want for yourself, it kind of comes down to that. So the cost to the world of women not healing the mother wound, of course, men have the mother wound as well. But the cost for all of us, when generations of women keep themselves small so as not to offend other people, it's a huge cost. It's the cost to the earth, the cost to the world of not having the genius and the gifts and the consciousness and the power of women. And I feel like this is something that we have to do first within ourselves. And as we do that, like I said, I see more and more women taking steps. And I think once we get a critical mass of more of us doing this work with this new consciousness, it's going to really pick up steam. And that's what really gives me a lot of hope and a lot of excitement. So, I want to tell you a little story about my journey, and because I know I've been talking kind of conceptual for a while, but I want to tell you a little bit about my story. You might be wondering, some of you that are new to me, how did you get into this work? Why are you doing this? So a quick story. And then I'm going to tell you about the online course and more about the journey, like what you can look forward to on your journey of healing the mother wound. So when I was a little girl, I was born into a family where my parents were very young when they had me. They both came from very abusive families. My father's side was more Irish. There was a lot of alcohol and physical abuse. So they were like working class. My mother's side was a little more upper class or middle class. And there was all that same abuse happening, but it was under this facade of prestige and status, which was all kind of a false mask. But nobody did any work on themselves. The whole family, both sides, we don't talk about stuff. We don't talk about it. And I really think my parents got married to escape their own families. Excuse me. I think they got married to escape their own families. And what you did back then was you got married early and you had kids of your own. It's kind of crazy to think about now. But as I grew up, and even from a very young age, I played that role of my mother's mother. I was like her little mother. I was her therapist. She would tell me her problems. She would speak to me about things that were not appropriate, about, her sex life with my dad, there was a lot of alcohol in the house. So the boundaries were just willy-nilly. There were no boundaries. And I felt really responsible for my mom's well-being. And I felt like her little therapist and her little counselor. And that made me feel important. That gave me a sense of, oh, I'm my mom's best friend. And she would tell me that I was her best friend from a very, very young age. And I also protected my brother. I was an older sister, so I protected him. I tried to keep away from my dad as much as possible. And then I got to college, and everything started to fall apart, basically. When I got to college, I had started to feel depressed. I started to have panic attacks. I started to feel a helplessness and a powerlessness. And I thought something is going on. I don't know what's going on. So I went to a therapist. I'm very lucky. I found a really great therapist right away. And she, I cried just over and over. Every session was just weeping, sobbing, and I would cry, I would smile through the tears like, oh, I have a great family. I'm not sure why I'm crying, but I have a great family. My mom is my best friend. Everything's great. So you can tell where I started, right? I was really in denial. I had no idea. But that really cracked the facade when I moved away from my family. I started to, and out of that system, my body started to heal, started to show the symptoms, right? But in the beginning, I told my therapist, I don't want to, she's like, we should talk about your mother. And I said, no way. I don't want to talk about my mother. No way. It was too scary. It was honestly too scary because she was a very dominating type of personality. And I just sensed that it wasn't going to be good. So for the first few years, I didn't talk about my mom at all. And I just worked on the surface issues. So I worked on my romantic relationships and how I was attracting the same type of guy time after time. And we worked on other things like my time management and my issues with food. But what I noticed something though, in those first couple years, I was like, I'm noticing that every problem that I have, every single issue, even though it's in a different area, all comes down to the same beliefs that I internalized from my mom. Beliefs like, don't you dare be too powerful. Don't you dare speak up for yourself. Don't you dare dream too big. Don't you dare think you're worthy of boundaries. Don't you dare. These were the kind of beliefs that were operating in every single area. And I realized they had to do with my mom. And so, I started to take it seriously. Like, wait a second, maybe I should be working on this. And so I did. I started to do workshops. I started to read books. But not about the mother wound. I was just still dabbling in beliefs, how can I change my beliefs? How can I become more spiritual? How can I meditate? I did yoga. I was like a self-help person all through my 20s, up until my late 20s. But here's when everything really changed. I was in grad school at the time, right towards the end, and I was in a relationship with a guy that I was crazy about. I thought he was incredible. He was interesting. He was artistic. He was attractive. He was really smart, but he was so unavailable. So I started to notice things like, we had fun together, but there were a lot of red flags. For example, I always had to go see him. He never came to see me. He would pick certain things out, like where we would go to eat. And I was never he never asked me where I wanted to go to eat. I started to see controlling things. I started to see that, he would pull away. He wasn't available. It was very unpredictable. He started commenting on my ability to drive a car. So there was lots of criticisms happening. And I remember one day I was driving home on the highway from seeing him, and I had a major epiphany. And I just realized, it still brings up some emotion when I think about it. I started to realize how wounded he was and how I had projected onto him all this potential that he wasn't really there. I had projected too much benevolence, too much potential onto him. He had never done any work on himself, never been to therapy, never done any self-development. And I just had this epiphany going down the highway. I remember exactly where I was on the highway at the time. And I remember just saying, what am I doing? What am I doing? And I realized the dynamics with him were the same dynamics that they were with my mother. And the epiphany really was, if I don't do something about this now, this is going to be my life. This is going to be the same thing I'm going to deal with no matter who I'm with. So it was just realizing I was tolerating disrespect. I was accepting crumbs. I was really betraying myself. And, you know, I just got a bit angry with myself, not in a pejorative way, but just more like, I want better for myself. I want to step out of this. And I realized there's no real connection with this guy. I was projecting that, just like I had to project a lot of connection with my mother. Like I had to artificially manufacture a bond with my mother because she didn't really bond with me. I had to fictionalize that in a way. And I was doing that with this guy. And I had done that in a lot of my other relationships as well. So I saw that my attachment blueprint was really what needed help. Like it was forged in loss. And I was going to keep replicating that disconnection, that loss in any subsequent relationship. And I needed to get serious about my healing journey. So the realization really was that I needed to commit. I needed to stop dabbling in workshop here, spiritual stuff there, beliefs. Let me work on my beliefs. No, I realized I needed to get serious and commit to the mother wound work, because it was going to be now or never. And I really wanted more for myself. And I saw that I had to really commit and not just dabble anymore in this work. So I was really grateful that that was a big wake-up call. Like that relationship woke me up, and it was a turning point for me to really get serious about my healing work, to see that no one was going to do it for me. There was no magic bullet. But I needed to get the support I needed to do it. So I actually went back to my therapist after that, and I was just like, I'm ready. I'm in. I want to heal this all the way down. And that's what we did. So I started healing, doing this work with my therapist very intensively after that experience. And results started to quickly happen. I started diving deep. It was very hard. But over time, I started to feel more safe with myself. I started to feel more of my lovability. I started to feel that I was worthy of more than crumbs. My next relationship was actually light years away from what that guy was. And I was going to push myself to get a PhD, and I decided, no, I've done enough schooling. I don't want to, that was kind of part of that striver proving energy of wanting to get the PhD. And for me, I just realized, nope, I don't need to do that. I'm enough as I am. I've got enough. So many things changed as I committed to my healing the mother wound work. I got the support I needed. I committed. And that's kind of the reason I'm telling you this story, is because I really want this to be your turning point. Whatever you're dealing with in your life that brought you to this webinar and to this masterclass series, I don't want you to waste any more of your time if you are dabbling here and there. Some things work for a while, but then they don't, everything comes back. Like, I want you to have the support that you need to really go through this, because the way out of the mother wound is in, right? So deep is the only way. Deep is the only way, because we're working on our blueprint of self. It's not something we can just have an appetizer. We really have to go all in. And so that's really why I designed my online course as something that's a one-stop shop where you can get through those milestones. So fast forward, I think it was 2011, 2012, I actually started to have even more big results in my life, where I started to feel like, wow, I feel amazing. Why is no one talking about this? No one's talking about the mother wound and how crucial this is. And so I developed my own course in consultation with my therapist on who's a trauma expert, by the way, what were the milestones that I have gone through that other women have to go through in order to come out the other side. And so that really formed the basis of my online course. And you need 3 things to heal the mother wound. You need an expert, somebody who has done it and has gone through all these stages herself. You need a community of other women who are on the path with you, so that you don't feel alone, so that you feel part of a community of other women with you, guiding you, alongside you, doing this together. And you also need a roadmap, right? So you need an expert, you need a community, and you need a roadmap. And that's really how I designed the course, to set you up for success. So yeah, So today, and we're going to get to Q&A very shortly, but what I really want you to come away with today is that, life is too short. I tried to, process of elimination, I tried to bypass this, and I'm very transparent in telling people that, I always thought if I could be spiritual enough, I could maybe not even have to go through the the healing the mother wound stuff, like going to my past and do all that. And, I realized that, I wasn't ready yet, but the truth is there is no bypass. And so I say that with love, to be honest with you, because I want you to know that this work takes courage. It's long-term. It's not easy. There are tough times during, there's, times that it's hard. And there's also exhilarating moments as well. And I am living, really right now, my life is going in an incredible direction. And I hope to start to write about more of that, to share that with you, because I just want you to know that it's worth it. It is possible to heal this, but you need the right support. And, you can get probably other courses out there that are like lower priced and shorter in duration. They might even promise you quick results. But the truth is, if you want to go the full way, you need long-term support. And let me tell you a little bit about how the course is designed very quickly. And then, we'll go into Q&A. So if you have any questions about, what's the journey like, what you can look forward to. So yeah. So, I want to take a stand for you today and tell you that I've watched so many of your insights in the Facebook group. And so I really invite you to enroll before Friday so that you can have, all the pieces that you need to stop dabbling, stop just reading books or going to workshops or, things here and there. Really, if you feel it's time for you, that I have this available for you, and I would love to support you on the journey. And so what are some of the things you could look forward to? You might be saying, well, if it's long and it's hard, I know I'll get the support, but how are things going to change for me? And like I said earlier, the changes that I see are feeling less controlled by guilt and shame, feeling more freedom, just freedom to be yourself, more joy, more play. These are things I'm speaking from my own experience here, more joy and more play, less tolerance for things that are not for you, taking life less personally, attracting better quality relationships into your life, a felt sense of abundance that, life is abundant, life is benevolent, and starting to have that direct experience that, not just an intellectual understanding, but a real felt, visceral, embodied understanding that you are enough as you are. You're actually a completely unique, irreplaceable being. And there is so much joy in just being yourself and to get to exist, even just enjoying existence and being alive, and the things that are challenging feel less, less onerous and burdensome, more self-trust in yourself, more trust in life, being open to new things, being able to bear the happiness, that more happiness than you maybe even imagined, and it might not be in the ways that you imagine. For me, I find that less is more. I'm so happy with less. I always thought I needed, years ago, I always thought I needed a lot to be happy. I don't realize I don't need that much to be happy. Like, life is enough. The little things are so precious and amazing. I could go on, but I'm not going to do that in the interest of time. But I hope you get the vibe of, what this is about. This is deep. This is really about self-love, learning to love yourself, learning to show up for yourself, and then feeling unstoppable in the process, and letting other people have their feelings and their journeys without letting that, without carrying that as your own, really seeing where you end and where others begin. And in that self-containment, you can start to really flourish in powerful ways. And, I'm going to be emailing you. I have a YouTube video. I don't know, maybe Abigail has access to this, but there's a video that's all about the words of women who have taken this course. And the video has women one just started, one who's been in it for like a few months, and one that's been in it for a couple of years, and you get to hear from these women what the course has been like for them and how their lives have actually changed. So you don't have to hear it just from me. So Abigail, if you could put that in the chat before we end today, that would be great. All right. Perfect. So I think I'm just looking at my notes here and making sure I got everything we need to go through. All right, perfect. So bottom line today is that healing requires a commitment, and I'm calling you into that commitment right now. And we have the opportunity to join the course at a lower rate. Now, how the course is designed, I'm going to take a minute and go over that, because in tomorrow's session, 1 p.m. Eastern, tomorrow, October 11th, we're going to go over the entire online course, and you can ask me anything about the course tomorrow. So, but if you have questions now about the journey, I'm going to go over your questions on that now. But the way the course is designed is the 7 steps of healing the mother wound, what those milestones are that you need to go through. The milestones include things like, healing the mother gap, the gap between what you needed from your mother and what you actually received. This is a thing that can cause a lot of pain, and we can project our need for validation out on other people. It can cause a lot of problems. There's also giving up the impossible dream that your mother will change into the kind of mother that you've always longed for her to be. That's a big piece of this. Even if your mother has passed, or if your mother's not in your life, we can project that mother wound onto other people, whether our partner or our bosses or friends. And so the impossible dream is a big piece. Another part of the journey is allowing ourselves to grieve what we went through as little girls. And as we grieve, we become more free. Grief is a big part of this process. And so in the course, I teach you about how to work with your grief, how to welcome it, how to support it. And then, of course, inner mothering is really the bridge from feeling subservient to feeling sovereign in your own life. Inner mothering. How do we mother that little girl inside of us who needs that love and care, and also fierce protection? And she also needs to be taught that now is different from the past. So I teach a very specific process on that in module 6. So this just gives you kind of a quick flavor of what's in the course. You get lifetime access to this, by the way. So it's in a beautifully designed platform, and you log in, you have lifetime access to it. You get 1 module a week. And at the end of the 7 weeks, it's yours forever. You can download everything. Each module has a video and some exercises to complete. You can go at your own pace. Many people, and I recommend that you go at your own pace. You don't need to finish it in a certain amount of time. In addition to the course curriculum, you also get 2 pieces of community. You get Q&A calls with me twice a month. They're 90 minutes each. You get unlimited amount of these calls with me. So you can directly ask me questions, and I can coach you through your own situation. And it's a first come, first serve format on these calls. If you can't make it live, they're all recorded and archived, so you can listen when it's good for you. If you can't make those Q&A calls, I have office hours in my private Facebook group, so you can ask me questions there as well. That's actually a third community part. Which is the private Facebook group, which is filled with women from all walks of life, from all around the world, who are doing this work with you. And some of them are farther along on the path. Some of them are new. You get to really have a nice, rich mix of women who are with you on the path, going through the same things that you're going through, so you can feel that community support, validation, and inspiration. You also get lifetime access to all of that. So like I said, there's 3 things you need to heal the mother wound, and those 3 things are part of the pillars of the course. So that's how it is. Now, when you go to the page to learn more about and enroll in it, and many of you have already enrolled this week, which has been amazing. If you haven't enrolled yet, when you go there to the place, Abigail, if you can put that link below for people to join and enroll in the online course. There's an FAQ there, and I invite you to go look at that FAQ, and it has even more questions about it, which is like, some people say, well, I've done so much work on myself. Is this going to help? And many women say that they've been in therapy for years and years, and this was the missing piece that really helped the healing come together. this course. So you don't have to be in therapy to do this, but many people are in therapy while they take the course. It's not required, but it is recommended if you're open to something like that. Okay, great. So I want to close this part, and I hope this was helpful for you, just to hear what the mother wound is. We went over why it's so important we heal it. I went over my personal story of healing, as well as how the course is designed to guide you from A to Z with this. And Abigail has put the link to the course, so you can go look and see exactly what's in the course, what it covers, as well as the frequently asked questions at the bottom in case we don't get to that today. Now, we're going to have lots of time for Q&A now. But if I don't get to your question, come to the private Facebook after this, because I'm going to post the recording there so you can watch this again if you want, or you can ask me a question in the group. So I'm going to be in the group from now, until Friday, until this promotional masterclass series and the sale on the course is over. So if you have any questions, you can tag me there and ask me there, because we only have so much time today for questions. So thank you for your patience, everyone. I want to thank you for being part of this, for listening so attentively and being present. I know an hour is a long time, but I hope that this has been interesting and exciting and motivating for you. So I'm going to take a sip of water, and then I'm going to go to your Q&As. Okay. Awesome. So how are you feeling, everyone? I want to hear in the chat first. How are you feeling? How is all of this landing for you? Which parts are feeling exciting, or feeling, what part really hit you in this presentation today? I would love to hear. Georgia said, this has been so inspiring. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. This is my life's work. I'm so passionate. Even though this is still a taboo issue, it really is the most important work I think we can ever do. Okay, so I'm going to go to the Q&A now. Kate. Okay, let me just take a deep breath. I'm going to read her question in the Q&A. So Kate says, I know my mother wanted me to fail, and now I feel fear whenever I have success in my career or relationships, and I'm not sure how to process the fear of being successful in various normal ways. Yes, well, this comes down to the inner child. As I said earlier, your adult self has goals and wants success, and that's wonderful. But the inner child is still believing all the things you learned from your mother about, like, success is not safe, either through lived experiences or, through beliefs that your mother might have passed down, because our mothers are the most powerful when we're young children, right? So I would start to work with your inner child. And I would invite you to get the course if you can, but I would also say, have empathy and compassion always for your inner child, that she believes that it's not safe. The fear makes sense given what you've been through, right? It makes sense that you're afraid of success because you were taught. So identify, how were you taught that, to fear success and to fear, being successful in some way? How were you taught that? Make a list of all the memories you have of that. Empathize with your inner child, and then start to bring some new beliefs and new realities to her, that actually that unsafe time is already over. We lived through that. We survived that. The inner child still thinks that it's like a part of our brain, the amygdala, that thinks that we need to be in survival. So she's projecting that template of unsafety outwards. So it's really about working with the inner child, empathizing with how it makes total sense she'd believe that, and then start to cultivate a loving relationship with her where she can trust you as Big Kate, and then bringing some new beliefs in there that actually it is safe to succeed now. And here's why. The biggest one is that we're not children anymore, and mom doesn't have power over us, and not everybody is like mom. But that's not going to feel real to her in a real way until you do some deeper bonding with her, until she has your trust. Okay, let's see. Hope that was helpful to you. Tamara asks, can you speak to how a mother wound might affect the relationship between sisters? I feel like my sisters and I were put in a position of competing for our mother's love, maybe because the love felt scarce and we had to perform for it. Absolutely, Tamara. I hear this all the time. It's very common that mothers, especially those mothers who were either deprived, they felt resentful, or just they had some hardship in their lives. When they have daughters, it gives them a sense of power. And so they can sometimes play the daughters off of one another. It can create long-term tension between the sisters. So really, I see that when there's tension between sisters, it always starts with the mother to some degree. So, I would look at that. So how did that play out in your childhood? Make a list of all the ways you remember that happening, and know that that's really something your mom did. She manipulated those relationships for whatever reason. Usually it's to get a sense of power. I know this sounds really primitive, and it is, but to give herself a sense of power when she might have felt powerless otherwise in her life. And that wasn't fair to you all at all, of course. But it's important to understand this part, that there was a scarcity of love. You felt that scarcity. You felt you had to compete, and your mother really played into that. So if you feel that sense of scarcity, know that it's not really the sense how reality is. Reality is actually full of abundance, but your early experiences were the scarcity, right? So really empathizing with little Tamara, the little girl inside of you who was living in a place of scarcity, and that was very painful, so painful. So I would just start really empathizing with your inner child and let her know that you as adult Tamara are going to continue to show up for her and give her that sense of abundance, that there's an abundance of love now. And so you can think about, what are some ways I could start to do that? Okay, let's go to some more questions. So Sharona asks, I am 52 years old and just beginning to become aware of the real damage my mother wound has caused me professionally. I don't know how to access my inner child. I never felt good enough, and I'm not sure how I even know who I am. I have a daughter who I raised with all the things I didn't get. She's thriving. I don't know how to give me what I gave her. It can take some time in the beginning for some people to access that inner child. So what I would recommend for you, Sharona, is just to get a picture of yourself from when you were a little girl. Start to think about some memories you have of being little. What were some of the things you liked as a little girl, like toys or books or music or genres? Like, I would make a Pinterest board of your inner child. What did you love as a little girl? So get into that. It's like getting to know her again, and it might take some time. If you've been pushed all that aside, you can't imagine it's going to immediately be there. So be really patient with yourself as well. And that's what I would do. Find things you like to do as a kid, do them more often, give your inner child lots of compassion for what she went through. You can do that with journaling, with dialoguing. There's lots of ways you can do it. Okay, Carla, I never realized I had a deep mother wound until I took over my grandmother's care when we found out she had Alzheimer's. She and my mother always had a strained relationship. Okay, this is long. I'm going to try to get to. Now I find myself empathizing with my mother, but I have so much anger and resentment towards my grandmother. I know she's sick, but she is just really toxic, and I bear the full weight of this. Is this resentment normal? The resentment is normal. It's normal to feel anger about realizing the injustices that your mom went through. And I would give yourself some time and space to process that. But I wouldn't let yourself stay there, just feel that resentment, let it be there. It's valid. It makes total sense. And let that also go into compassion. Since your grandmother is dying, she has Alzheimer's, you can just allow yourself to feel grief, as well. So anger and grief kind of go together. So the most important thing I would say is let yourself have that. Let yourself have the anger and the grief. But don't let it start to impact your own thoughts, like negative thinking. Just give yourself the space to feel it and let it pass is what I would say. Sam asks, wondering how, oh, wait, here we go. Yeah. Sam says, wondering how to navigate my mom's cancer diagnosis and only now finally realizing how many mother wounds I have with her. I want to stay away like she taught me, but I'm feeling tremendous guilt for not doing more. Okay. Gotcha. Sam, so your mom got diagnosed with cancer. You're realizing the wounds that your mom inflicted, that you've been suffering with. You want to stay away, but you're feeling guilt. I would say, Sam, that's normal to feel that. And also I would invite you to spend some time reflecting on, number one, it's not your fault that your mom got cancer. Don't feel guilt about that. That's not your fault. It's nothing you caused. Second thing, whatever your mom's situation is she alone? Does she have support besides you? If she doesn't have that much support, again, that's not your doing. That's a result of your mom's own choices. It's not something you need to take on. And what else was I going to say? Sorry, lost my train of thought. I would also think, Sam, about what are some of the things you are willing to do for your mom. If she's not asking you to do anything, then I would just let yourself, feel compassion for her, but don't let that compassion turn into guilt. That can happen a lot with women. When you have distance from your mom that you've created, you did that for a reason. And then that's healthy. Even if she's become ill or elderly, this is kind of for everybody, you don't have to change your boundaries for that. You can have compassion from a distance, and your mom is an adult who can get the support that she needs. If your mom asks you for help, you can decide yourself, and I would spend some time reflecting on this. What am I willing to do? And what am I not willing to do to help my mother? And don't force yourself to do more than you actually want to do. So that's a great exercise in learning your limits and also being authentic. So yeah, really honor your boundaries and your limits, and you can feel compassion for her, but don't take on her pain or her painful journey as something you need to suffer with her about, right? I think that's a very common thing I see, is that women almost treat their mothers like children, feel their pain for them, and their compassion for their mother can eclipse compassion for themselves. And one of the biggest hallmarks of healing the mother wound is you have this both and, where it's like, I feel compassion for my mother and I have compassion for myself. Yes, my mother suffered in her life, and I have suffered too as a result of what she's done. So it's a both and. When the mother wound is really in force, it can feel like it's one or the other. It's like, I can only have compassion for my mother, or I can only have compassion for myself. And people feel really stuck with that. So when you feel yourself in that either or, black or white, that's a sign of a wound is active, right? The healthy kind of differentiated place, sovereign place, is it's a both and. Yes, I feel compassion for my mother, and I have compassion for myself. Yes, I have compassion, and I get to have boundaries at the same time. And I'm going to honor my boundaries, even though my mother is suffering, right? So you understand a little bit more about the sovereignty I'm talking about. It's you have your own separate sovereign personhood, and you can have compassion for your mom. Compassion for your mom does not eclipse your personhood and need for respect and separate self. I hope that makes sense. I hope everybody got something out of that, because that's a really big part of it. Okay. Thanks everybody for your patience. I'm having great time with these questions, really good ones. Okay. So can you speak to whether you've struggled with or seen others struggle with this? I'm doing the work and the healing. I'm getting older. I'm scared to become a mom, even though I think that's what I want. My mother caused me such deep pain. I didn't want to do that too. I think I say this to all moms or people who want to become moms, which is just do the work of healing the mother wound. That's the best thing you can do to prevent passing it on. And I've had many women join my online course before they have children, and even coaching with me before they have children, specifically to work through that pre-motherhood work, cleaning and cleanup and clarity that you want to get. And the truth is, you know what? All moms, there's no such thing as a perfect mom. And I don't believe kids need perfect moms. I believe what kids need is moms who are on their path, moms who are learning and growing and evolving, who can take feedback, who are, really compassionate with themselves. That's what every kid needs, is a mom who's on her path, who's taking care of herself, who's on a growth journey, right? That's really the best thing you can do for your kids, is to do that and be that. Kids do not need a perfect mother. That's not possible. It's not fair to yourself to expect that. You will wound your kids. And to some degree, all you can do is try to lighten that wound as much as you can. And with a lot of love and compassion for yourself, So I would encourage you to let go of any of that pressure, right? So do your work and make it a lifelong process. So I hope that's helpful for you. It sounds like you're on the path already. Joanna, I deeply struggle with women feeling jealous of me and not feeling like I belong. Women being competitive, trying to be superior rather than my equal. I also struggle with feeling very abandoned by my mother, not being seen by her or acknowledged, both the good and the challenging. She was very, very abusive in my teen years. Yeah, that's very common, Joanna. I completely understand. I'm sorry you went through that. That sounds really hard, especially during the teenage years. And, you know, dealing with women friendship wise who are jealous of you or competitive, trying to be superior, that's usually an emanation of the mother wound, right? I found that as we heal the mother wound, we just don't engage with women like that. We don't even deal with women like that. They don't even see us, or we don't even see them. It becomes not even an option to deal with that. But while that is showing up for you, I think that's showing up so that you can start to heal some of the ways that your mother treated you that way, and to process some of the pain around that. Abigail, if you could just keep those up just a tad longer, because sometimes I like to read them again. But yeah, so what I would do is make a list of all the ways that, your mother was competitive, or, there's a process in the robust workbook that comes with this masterclass that actually has this process in there. So all of you asking questions about, like, your specific situations, I really recommend you go to page 7 of the workbook, because it really breaks it down for you better than I can do right now on the call. I really think you would benefit from the course, honestly, the last speaker, because it takes time to unpack all that, how your mother showed up for you in a competitive, jealous way, why that was painful, and then showing up for your inner child and really empathizing with how painful that was. And it makes sense you're attracting jealous, competitive women because that's how your mother was, and kind of grieving that. And then also starting to see that that was not okay. One of the biggest milestones in this process is seeing that wasn't okay. The way my mother treated me was wrong. It was unacceptable. It was not okay. We need to get to that place. Why do we need to get to that place? Because that is a place of self-worth, right? So when we can see what happened to us was not okay, and we can feel that with conviction, with fierceness, on the behalf of the child that we were, you know what that translates into? Better standards, higher standards for people that we deal with, better boundaries, firm boundaries, not tolerating poor treatment, not just accepting crumbs. When we really look at what our mothers did to us when we were children, helpless, dependent children, not blaming our mothers, but really looking at how we suffered, that inner work is like an alchemy that transforms and turns into all those things I just said: better boundaries, better relationships, not tolerating crap from people, not taking other people's behavior personally. Just, it's amazing. And we can't bypass that, right? So we have to be ready to do it. So this course is really designed to help you get in touch with that, so that you can really move through, feel the anger, feel the outrage, feel the sadness, feel the hurt, feel the grief, and then kind of transform all those feelings into higher self-worth, better boundaries, just feeling your goodness, and that wasn't okay. That anger is kind of a straight line into our authenticity and into our sense of high self-worth. So, it takes time to process all this stuff. So that's why the course is really a lifetime access thing, so that you can keep going back to it, take the time you need, etc. Okay, I hope that was helpful. I'm trying to give everybody a little kernel of something with each question. Okay, so Casey says, do you think going no contact with the mother is necessary? I'm at a point where I will never be seen, heard, no accountability, and I don't even venture to certain conversations. Gotcha. I keep the relationship very surface because that is all there is capacity for, and I'm trying to figure out where to go next. Yeah, Casey, this is something I help women with all the time in the online course on my Q&A calls, as we really walk through the process. Now, going no contact is, it's usually starts out as, we try to make things work. And then when things stop working, like you said, you've gotten to the point where it's very surface. So it's kind of a personal question for you. Is this enough for you? Because the truth is, if you want a relationship with your mom, but she's abusive, usually what we have to do is whittle it down to the places where it's not abusive anymore, which might be a quick phone call, surface conversation, the weather, yada, yada. And then that's it, because that's all she can give you. Do you want that in your life? Or is that still a source of stress and tension for you? Is she still pushing your boundaries even when you're trying to keep it really surface? It's a personal question. Everybody's different. But I think the thing that really usually has to happen is you have to reckon with what's the cost to my own well-being that this relationship has. What cost to my well-being? Are you not sleeping well? Are you up at night thinking? Are you, if it's having a detrimental effect on your health and your emotional, mental health, as well as your physical health, then I think, no contact has to be on the table, because no relationship is worth your diminishing health. No relationship, whether it's a friend, a boyfriend, a partner, or your mother, nobody's worth that. That's what I went through personally in my own journey. It was a heartbreaking thing to realize that if I'm going to continue having a relationship with my mother, I'm probably going to get sick. I'm going to get ill. I'm going to go really down to a dead end if I keep in this relationship with my mother, so all of us have to negotiate that. And some of us get to that point. Some of us can have a surface relationship and it works and we figured it out and it's fine. We grieve that it can't be what we wanted it to be. Yeah, so I think, Casey, it's really a reflection for you. What's the cost that it's having on your life? And do you want, some people want to have some kind of connection with their mom. And some people are like, no, I can't have any, because it just opens up a door where my life starts to become very much compromised due to her influence. So I know it's kind of it depends question, Casey, but I hope that helps you, kind of think about that, give you a lot to think about. Verna asks, what daily practices do you do to keep healing your own mother wound? Yeah, I mean, what daily practices? I mean, it's a lot of different things, Verna. It depends on where you're at in your journey. But if I had to name one really quickly here, I would say working with the inner child is probably the most important one. So getting to terms with what's not working in your relationship with your mom, what's your mother gap, and then showing up for your inner child, in the ways that she needs you to. So this stuff, like I said, it's not easy or quick. It's usually, there's many, many, many layers to all this. So I want to make sure that you're really appreciating that. But I'd say connecting with your inner child is the most important one. And I would also direct you, Verna, to that process in the robust workbook for this series on page 7. That has a whole process in it for you. Okay. Okay. I'm going to skip Casey because I already answered a question of hers. So Hillary, what are some good tools to heal shame and guilt around making new choices, as well as anger towards myself? I've been healing and in therapy for a while now, but it still keeps coming up as a block. What are some good tools? Well, I think it's a process, keeps coming up as a block. Yeah, well, shame, the reason why it keeps coming up as a block is because shame is, for many of us, a kind of identity. I think I mentioned this earlier in the call today, the webinar, that we come to a conclusion as children that we're bad. There's something wrong with me. Why would my mom be so mean to me? Why would she push me away? Why would she call me names? Why would she make me feel bad? I must be bad. So that's the shame gets instilled very early. And then sometimes our mothers might have actively shamed us on top of that. And then we have the culture that can also shame us as well. So the shame thing is not something that is let go of, in a month or a year. It's like our long-term process that we have to really work through. So it's multi-pronged. One is, just understanding that, shame is a coping mechanism, really. It's something we needed to believe. It was a helpful illusion that helped us survive childhood, but it's not the truth about me, right? And also embracing your shame, like not feeling shame for feeling shame, So embracing yourself and saying, oh, it makes total sense. I felt shame for that because that's what kids do. I had no other choice but to believe that. So you put it in the proper context that shame is really from childhood. It's a coping mechanism to cope with feeling unloved and unsupported, unseen. And you start to work with your inner child to start to help her feel seen and start to help her learn that she's actually always been good and lovable and whole and worthy. And there's nothing she can do. It's like we were born worthy. Our worth is in place when we're born. There's nothing we can do to add to that or earn more of it. It's already there. We already have it when we're born, right? So it's about helping the inner child really feel the truth that you are lovable and so good, and there's nothing shameful about you. Shame is really a lie. It's like a life raft. We needed it to get through childhood, but as adults, we can discard it. We don't need it. But the inner child needs support because that belief is what really was equivalent for survival for us. So think about it. We hang on to shame like we hang on to survival. And there's a very, clear explanation for that. That's how we're built developmentally. We need that. If we're not being loved and safe, protected and all that, we need to believe it's our fault. So just think about all the many experiences we had that built that in our brains, right? To feel safe with that. Even though it's painful, it's familiar and it's comfortable, right? So a lot of this stuff is about having a lot of compassion for ourselves, that we were just little kids trying to survive, and we had very immature parents or dysfunctional people for parents. And so we believed a lot of lies and myths that weren't really true. And so all of this unpacking happens in an atmosphere of love and holding ourselves as inner child. See how complex this is? There's many layers to it. And that's why the course really tries to make this step by step. And there's many layers, and you have lifetime access to it, because this is stuff that takes a long time to unpack. So, and you have to be tender and allow yourself to have your process. We live in this world that says, heal now, and I used to feel this myself, and I hear from many people all the time. I just want to heal this so that I can have get on with the rest of my life. Well, that's not really how it works. If you want to truly heal, you have to kind of make healing part of your life and actually accept the fact. And believe me, I was in resistance to this for a long time. You have to kind of accept the fact that you're going to be healing for many, many years. For many of us, it's a lifelong journey. But the cool thing is that it stops, once you get to a certain point, it stops being about, when am I going to heal this entirely? It's because you start to feel everything start to open up. You start to have these exhilarating moments of like, wow, I feel amazing. Like I feel free. I feel at choice. I feel like I really appreciate and love myself more. Like all of these awesome things start happening. But then another trigger comes up, then another layer of the wound comes up for healing. And, I spent many years being like, and I know a lot of people struggle with this, like, oh no, I thought I healed that, and here it is again, and I haven't healed as much as I thought. But the truth is that, embrace that. If you can embrace that healing is going to be like breathing, it's part of a life. It's part of being a conscious human at this time in history, is we have a lot of generational backlog of stuff that we need to heal. And so I encourage you to embrace that as a badass cycle breaker woman, that this is the most courageous work that we can do, and that you just really go for it. It's almost like surfing. I don't know if you've ever surfed or tried to surf, but it's like, at first it sucks because the waves keep hitting you down, and it's like your face is getting scraped against the bottom of the ocean. But over time, you learn how to ride the wave. You learn how to get up on the board. You fall over, right? But then you get to stay on the board longer. And then you catch your first wave. And then, so it's kind of like that process where you start to harness the journey, you start to understand the journey, you understand the waves, and it becomes less important that you become done. And it becomes exhilarating just to keep healing and growing and evolving, because as you do, your life reflects back to you the healing that you've been doing. So your life will improve. The quality of things gets better. You just feel better in your body. You just, so it becomes less and less about being done. So I want to encourage all of you to kind of reject that cultural kind of capitalist belief that we have to be perfect in order to be worthy and that we have to heal everything in order to get on with our lives. The truth is not, that is not the truth. The truth is you can heal now. You'll keep healing, and your life is going to get better and better with every layer that you go through. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that's helpful to you, everybody. Just a little spiel. So I want to take just a couple more questions. I know we had a lot of questions that came in. I went deeper with some of them because I thought it would benefit all of you. I see someone saying a generational cycle breaker. Yes, breaking cycles, right? Some of the things that we're healing have been in our families for generations, like many, many, many generations. So I want to also invite you to think about the magnitude of this healing work and what you would be doing, for your lineage, for, each of us is a woman that has women going back to the beginning of time. It's pretty amazing to think about that, right? So yeah, go for this, go for this. All right, I want to take another question and then we're going to wrap up. So thank you for your patience, everyone. I know I'm not going to get to all these questions, but what I'm going to recommend is that you take your question and bring it to the private Facebook group after we end in about 5 minutes and ask me this question there. Okay. We never know how many questions we're going to get. Okay. So I'm going to go down. Where was I? Donna, my mom passed 5 years ago. She was always treated my brother better and often compare us. She always told me never be better than a man. They won't like you. My brother is not like my mom, especially in how he treats me. Is it normal to resent my brother like I did my mom? Of course it is. Yeah, it's very normal to resent being told all that. That's really tough. She always told me never be better than a man because they won't like you. That's a perfect example of how patriarchal beliefs get passed down through our mothers. And they're the most insidious because we needed to believe these things in order to get our mother's love, right? We needed to be compliant enough for her to elicit her approval and love for us in order for us to survive. So Donna, I really feel for you. That's a really rough kind of belief to receive from your mom. And it's very clear, typical, be small, don't be better than a man. And I'm sorry that your brother, it sounds like she gave your brother the message that he was better than you because he was a boy. And of course, you're going to feel resentment for that. So what I would do, Donna, is I would recommend that you give your inner child or your inner teenager, whatever inner younger part of you feels connected to this. And I would say, tell me everything you're angry about, little Donna or teen Donna. Tell me everything that pisses you off about this. Tell me about your resentments and let your inner child tell you everything she's angry about. And you really listen to her as the kind of mom that you wish you had, lovingly, attentively, being really present, respecting her feelings. This is a powerful way to build trust with your inner child. Is to say, tell me everything you're angry about. I want to know. I want to understand. I'm really here to listen to you and what you're angry about. Your anger is important to me. You're important to me. And then journal, Donna, journal, have your inner child, as your inner child, do some automatic writing as her and let her tell you what she's angry about. And you can say, yeah, that was not right that mom did that she told you to be small. She was doing that to try to protect you so that people would like you. But in the process, she really did harm. And she really gave you the sub message, that unspoken message that you're not good enough as you are. And I'm so sorry that she believed that. She believed that about herself and that she was passing that down to you. And I know that must have been so painful to see her elevating your brother and then telling you to be not too big. Don't surpass boys. They won't like you. And that getting liked by men is the most important thing. So there's so many messages there, little Donna. So you can see how I'm kind of modeling a little bit some of the language so you can really empathize with this little girl inside of you. Psychologists tell us that, the researchers say that the worst thing for a kid is to go through suffering and not have a loving adult witness. Kids can get through a lot of struggles if they have a loving, compassionate witness, loving, compassionate adult witness their pain and say, oh, I'm with you in this pain. I see that you're hurting right now. I'm here with you. If we didn't have that from our parents, this is how the wounds really get stuck in. And that is how we unstuck them, is when we become that loving, compassionate witness to the child inside. So it's almost like a new habit that you need to build into your life. To your adult sees it, and then you show up for that little one inside of you. You start to build a relationship with her. And in the course, we talk all about how to do that. And in the course, you get to have unlimited calls like this with me, where I answer your questions at length. So today you're getting a bit of a taste of what some of the Q&A calls are like. And again, they're 90 minutes, all questions. So you get to hear the questions of other women. So I hope that today, as we wrap up, and thank you everyone for your questions. For those of you who asked questions, I'm sorry we didn't get to all of them. And I also want to thank those of you who didn't ask a question, but who really were present and listening to, the questions of others. I hope today has been helpful in you getting a taste of what the mother wound is, why it's crucial that we heal it, and also to really, I want to inspire you and invite you again to make a commitment to your healing. Commit to yourself and get the support you need, and consider, I invite each of you to join the online course before Friday so that you can get this discount of $250 off and a low payment plan. I would love to support you. This works. I've seen it help so many women. I've seen it help them leave marriages that don't work. I've seen it help them start businesses. I've seen this course help women do motherhood differently. I've seen it help women move across the country and, start their dreams, go for what they want. I've seen it help women in so many different walks of life, and I would love to help you as well. So I hope today inspires you. So many of you have already joined the course this week. I'm so excited, and I hope that if you haven't yet, that I will see you before Friday. So thanks everybody so much. I'll see you tomorrow because we have more time. Tomorrow, 1 p.m. Wednesday, the 11th, we're going to do another 30-minute Q&A. So you're welcome to bring your question. If you don't bring it to the private Facebook group now, come tomorrow as well, and I'll have time to ask questions. Most of it is going to be about the course. I want to hear your questions about the online course specifically so that I can answer those for you before Friday so that you can join. So once again, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Abigail, for your support. It's been incredible to be here with you today. I really had a lot of fun. I hope you did too. And I will see you all tomorrow and in the Facebook group. Okay, everybody, be well. Thank you so much. Lots of love. Bye for now.